You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show Terry Savage, who's a nationally known expert on personal finance. In fact, on the show, she's about to become an internationally known expert on personal finance. She's a syndicated columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, and her newest book is The Savage Truth on Money. Terry, a pleasure to have you.
I'm delighted to be here with you.
So one of the focuses that you always seem to have is on retirement. Now, as a financial planner, that's my day job. I always preach that talk, but a lot of times I meet younger people and they say, yeah, well, listen, Doug, it's really 40 years off. How do you explain to them the importance of planning now?
Well, it's a great savage truth that time is money. And when you're young, you think you have no money, but you have all the time in the world. When you're older, you realize that that time was more valuable than money because time leverages money. And just a few dollars a month put away to grow in a diversified portfolio of stocks can, over the 40 years that you're working, as you keep contributing, build quite a fortune without you having to be a genius, without you having to beat the markets. All you have to do is join the markets, make the effort to have an automatic system, take money out of that paycheck or out of your bank account and invest on a regular basis. Through all the ups and downs and over the long run, you will build your fortune.
Do you think it's important with people at this young an age to actually do a full-fledged financial plan, or just to give them a certain target like save 10 or 15 or 20%?
Yeah, it's easy to project, you know. I talk about the fact that if you put away $2,000 a year, every year for the next 30 years or so, and it earns the average, which is still true, the average historical return with dividends reinvested of the S&P 500. You know, you'd have nearly $500,000 by the time you're ready to retire. Now, if you do it for 50 years, so if you start in your 20s and you do it until you're really old, like in your 70s, which makes us all smile, you know, you would have $2.5 million. So the fact is that time really starts leveraging money out at the end. And that's why people who are older think, oh, if only I had started when I was young. So a little bit of math can show the young people how just doing it automatically and not worrying about the ups and downs of the market, and there will always be those. There always have been. Remember, those historic averages go back to the early 1920s, and you know that includes the Depression. It includes some really tough times in the U.S. in the 70s. I'm talking about the U.S. stock market, of course. So I think the first lesson is to spend less than you make and to regularly invest. You don't have to make a decision, just have it automatically put into an index mutual fund. That's the best kind of a lesson you can give to kids. And of course, if they're working and have an opportunity at work to do that on a tax-deferred basis, or if you're a U.S. citizen in an IRA, if we could get our grandchildren started on that when they start working, that would be the best gift we could give them.
They wouldn't be dependent on Social Security, which may or may not be in business by the time they retire.
Not for our grandchildren, believe me, not the way it's going.
So how do you explain the importance of getting out of debt?
Well, debt destroys you. Debt buries you. It's like trying to walk upstairs with a refrigerator on your back. There's no way you can get ahead until you get even. And so the first step, and I do, people say to me, do I pay down my debt or do I invest in my retirement plan? And my answer is both. We're not in a great economy now, but if you could get a second job on weekends instead of going to the movie, be the ticket taker at the movies, if you could do something like that and take all that extra money, extra in quotes, that you make and use it to pay down your debt, because in the U.S. today, if you have good credit, you're paying 13% on balances carried. And if you have horrible credit, it's as high as 28%, especially if you've gone over the limits. So that's a burden that really destroys people, debt, and you can never get out from under. That's why we're seeing so many bankruptcies.
So from what age would you start teaching kids about the importance of dealing with money?
Oh, I think that starts very early. You know, children pick up impressions of a lot of things, and I don't know if you have drive-through ATMs in Jerusalem,
No, we still have to stand up to get them.
Okay, but in the United States, you see the little kid in the car seat in the back, and mom goes through the drive-through ATM, puts in her plastic card, and out comes money. How about that?
Amazing.
So kids don't think money goes on trees anymore. They think it spritz out of ATMs.
That's something. Or they just think it comes from their parents.
Exactly. So even at that very young age, it's not too wrong to say to the child, you know, mommy works hard, daddy works hard, and when we do our work, they pay us. And I always used to tell my son, and half of what I make goes to the government in taxes. Now he's working and very successfully, and he realizes that half of what he makes goes to the government in taxes. So the rest we have to spend very carefully, and we have to save some.
Yeah, the taxes thing is quite a lesson. I have a teenage daughter who's very proficient at teaching, and she set up a business to teach Hebrew online. She came up with a clever website called 2learnhebrew.com, the number 2learnhebrew.com. She was collecting money, and then the end of the year came, and I said, well, Hannah, it's time to pay taxes. And she goes, I don't understand. What do you mean? I said, well, there's Social Security tax, which even though you didn't meet the threshold for income tax, you've got to file a return. I said, I'll pay the accounting fees, but you've got to pay the tax. Oh, man, the tears started rolling down her eyes. But now when we talk about it at the table, the other kids say, wow, you're earning all the money, and of course you have to pay taxes, but it'll pay for your retirement one day, or not.
Or not. It's paying for a lot of things. But the point is, these are lessons, kids. Obviously, you're teaching your children. I taught my son, who's successful in the financial services business now, and now that I have twin granddaughters who are 2.5, I hope I get some of those same lessons. It's we've been ignorant. We're well, I'm a little older than you are, I guess, but we're the generation whose parents remember as young kids the lessons of the Depression in the U.S. And what's interesting now is the next generation, your kids or the kids growing up today in the U.S. are going to remember, I hope, and learn some of the lessons just by being around of the anxiety of their parents as the U.S. has gone through now high unemployment, persistently high unemployment, slow economy. It's not nearly as bad as the Depression, although it is for some people who can't find jobs. And the lessons that cost the most teach the most. And we have a young generation that's going to, I hope, be much wiser about how they spend their money and invest their money.
I would hope so. We are talking with Terry Savage, who is a best-selling author of the book The Savage Truth on Money. In fact, she's written a number of books, and she appears all over the media. She's been explaining to us about raising kids to be money-wise. Now let's talk about a client who walks into my office and says, Doug, I didn't listen to that interview decades ago, and my parents never taught me how to be financially savvy. Here I am. I'm 45 or I'm 50, and I haven't put any money aside for retirement. How do you walk them through the process at that point?
Well, that's a very tough situation, and unfortunately, it's all too common. So there's only going to be 2 or 3 choices. Number one, you work longer, a lot longer. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Savage Number, How Much Money Do You Really Need to Retire? And the first edition of that book came out when people were telling me they were going to retire at 55 or something. And I kept thinking, no, you're going to live a lot longer than you think. You can't retire early. Now, after 5 years of slow growth global economy, more and more people are understanding that retirement was a concept of 40 years ago when people retired at 65 and lived 3 or 4 more years. Today, life expectancies are longer, and your working life is going to be longer, and you must plan for it. Doesn't mean you have to do the same job, but you have to plan to keep some income coming in well into your 70s. That's number one, working longer. The second thing is adjusting your lifestyle. That really may be necessary. Tough to sell homes in the U.S. these days, but the market's coming back. And so downsizing is going to be a fact of life for the retiring generation. And continuing and starting to invest, even at this age, at 45, 50, and understanding that you need stock market growth to help leverage that retirement money. In March of 2009, I sat on TV and said, please keep putting your money in. Don't change your investment plan. If you're putting that $300 a month in your index fund, keep doing it. Well, here we are. We're, within spitting distance of the all-time highs of the stock market. People do the wrong thing at the wrong time. So even at market highs or at market lows, you have to keep investing for growth. And that's the three things. But a reality check is necessary unless you have an even wealthier parent who's going to die and leave you money. And probably they're living longer, and you may be supporting them.
Yeah, that is a big problem that we see people in the sandwich generation, or they get no inheritance or negative inheritances, and it turns out that their parents did a reverse mortgage, and by the time they go, the house simply has no equity left in it. It's a huge problem when people are expecting to get money from someone else, relying on family or the government.
Right. Yeah, my father, and I'm knocking on wood here, is 92 years old. Had dinner with him last night, and I got him a reverse mortgage nearly a decade ago. He took a lump sum, which is mostly used up, and I help now. But he says, Terry, the balance is building and building. And I say, Dad, live there till you're 100. You're going to beat them out of a lot of money, you know.
So he won that bet. So it seems that a lot of the decisions that people make regarding their investments are not based on the numbers. You know, I'll put together a financial plan with charts and graphs, and it shows them either making it or not making it. But at the end of the day, people always end up making an emotional decision. How do you feel you can guide someone because we all make emotional decisions, that's the nature of human beings. How do you guide someone to say, listen, it's all well and good, you want to have this or you think this is so important, but you're going to go broke and you have to change your ways?
You know, it's a basic savage truth. Self-discipline is the essence of all decision-making, because without self-discipline or someone like you to hold their hand, people inevitably, as I mentioned, do the wrong thing at the wrong time. I'll give you two great websites free that you can go to, you can take people to. You probably do this already. The first is people need to understand longevity. And there's a great website called Living to 100, Living, T-O, and then the number 100.com. You take the quiz. How old are your parents, or were they when they passed on? Your brothers, your sisters, your habits, and so forth. You exercise every day, eat green vegetables. And when you click, it'll give you your life expectancy. I did that when I was writing the book, and I got like 106.
Wow.
I decided to go back and be a little more honest about the green vegetables and the exercise. But the fact is, livingto100.com will give you a real right in front of you view of the likelihood. And when I really did click, I got something like, I got 96. That's a long time to plan for. The second place you can go, and this is probably one of the best websites about financial planning, and it's put up by the nonprofit Employee Benefit Research Institute. And the website is called choosetosave.org, choosetosave.org. And there is something on there called a ballpark estimator. It's a calculator you can use on your own. It doesn't take your personal information. You put in how much you've saved, how much you're earning, what your age is, how long you expect to live. That's why you go to the life expectancy calculator first. And it will tell you how much your standard of living will drop in retirement versus how much more you need to be saving now. And you could fool around with expected investment returns and so forth. So those two websites, livingto100.com and choosetosave.org, give you a stark picture of what's out in front of you. Now, we can't plan for the unexpected. People say to me, well, what if the world comes to an end and there's a recession forever? And I always say, well, then we have bigger problems than how much money you have in retirement. But the fact is, the world goes on, America's gone on, the markets have gone on. And if you start now, it's never too late to start, but you have to start, make a plan, and find someone like you, Doug, or at least have the self-discipline to stick to that plan when everyone else is panicking. That's the secret of success. That's
a very good lesson. In fact, probably one of the most popular interviews that I had, just judging from the number of downloads, was with gerontologist Dr. Aubrey de Grey, who is often quoted on Wall Street because he's done the science behind it and showing that people are definitely going to be living not to 100, but 120, 130, 140, and more. He's a little bit of a radical thinker, but if it's true, boy, are we all going to have problems. But luckily, yes. I was going to say, luckily, there's the book by Terry Savage, The Savage Truth on Money, where she'll teach us about it. Terry, we're just about out of time. Tell me in the last few seconds, how can people follow your work?
You can read my columns and go online to terrysavage.com. It's TerrySavage.com. I have a little newsletter that I send out on occasion when my columns don't suffice to express my outrage at some of the things going on in the government or financial markets. But there are all kinds of calculators and links. My favorite website, again, terrysavage.com. If you want, you can order the book there in paperback.
Great. Okay, thanks so much for your time, Terry.
Thank you, Doug.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.